This video has everything to work out just fine. I have no natural lighting, which means I am using my bedroom. This is not my bedroom, okay, my room light, which is not great, as you've probably seen. My hair has just been washed and it's doing this, which, why God, why? And I am so full of the lunch that I just had that I'm a bit tipsy, which how are you tipsy with food? I don't know. That's just because I am a hobbit and I cannot eat too much, which, now that I think about it, it goes against the fact that I am a hobbit. Wow, am I contradictory? Hello beautiful bookworms, my name is Katarina and welcome to my channel, and today I am going to be doing sort of a recent vids. Wow. Okay. I am going to be doing a recent reads video. This is because I wasn't on time to do my November wrap-up, and I actually haven't read a lot in November. I only read comics and mangas because I had a very difficult month of November, and it's going sort of the same in December at the time that I'm filming this. So I decided to just put November and December together and do sort of a recent reads video. So this part is the first part where I'm going to tell you what I read in November, and then I will probably mash together what I read in December, and I'll try and publish this before the end of the year, because we don't want to know in January what I was reading in 2020, yeah. We want to know what I'm going to read in 2021, so this has to come out before the new year. Are you hearing this, future Catherine? Do it. So, what have I read, you ask? Mangas and comics. What else? So the first things that I've read in the month of November were a bunch of comics from the DC Black Label publisher, and from the new Joe Hill publish house, which is the Hill House Comics. If you don't know, Joe Hill is Stephen King's son, and he is a horror writer. He works with graphic novels as long as normal novels, and he is now launching sort of a comic publisher in between the DC comic publishing, all about horror and different types of horror. And some of the stories are written by him, and some of the stories are written by other authors. And so, if I'm timing my videos correctly, the reviews of all of the comics that I read from the Hill House comic printing will be up before this. So if you have any doubts, I will leave the link up above so you can go there and watch my review, because I'm going to do an in-depth review of these comics, and today I'm just going to talk a little bit about them so I can wrap them up. So I have read almost all of these. I read Basketful of Heads in October, and then I read the rest of it in November. So I started with The Dollhouse Family, which is by M.R. Carey, Peter Gross, Vince Locke, and Chris Peter. And this is basically the story of this family, these generations. They always have something to do with this dollhouse that is sort of possessed. There are actual living things living in the dollhouse, so the dolls are sort of alive. And it has a lot to do with demons and fighting against your fate. It has a lot of past, present, and future sort of situations, a kick-ass main character, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't the best of all of the Hill House comics series. So it was good if you enjoy any of the things that I've just talked about. It could be nice for you to read, but it wasn't my absolute favorite. Then I've read the ones that I have liked the most, and those are two different comic series. The first one is The Low Woods. This is by Carmen Maria Machado, which you probably already know because she is now a very, very prominent literary horror voice in the modern day and age. And so it's by Carmen Maria Machado, Danny and Tamara Bonvillain. And this is about these two girls. They live in this sort of, well, small, you know those small town sort of vibes that you sometimes get in horror? That's the same thing. This is an amazing story. It's a story about these women and these girls that live in this small town, and they start to forget bits and pieces of their days, of their weeks, of their lives. So it's already terrifying because I cannot imagine how I would feel if I had no idea what the fuck just happened to me in a bit of my life, because I need to be in control of everything that happens to me. So that was already terrifying. But there's a lot of creatures in the woods, creepy witchy stuff, and our two main characters are amazing. They are young and they are debating some situations, some problems, and I don't know, I really enjoy this. It was one of my favorite reads. And then the other one that I really love of this series is called Plunge, and this is by Joe Hill, Stuart Immonen, and Dave Stewart. And this is basically the story of this team that was in a ship. This ship was a salvage cargo ship, and that ship disappeared 40 years ago, I believe. And then in today's day and age, there was a storm, and that storm came up with the ship. Again, nobody knows where it came from, but it started to emit some signals. So there's this team that is made to go and salvage what remains of that ancient ship. However, the ancient crew of that ship that went away 40 years ago is still alive. And this is amazing. If you like Lovecraftian horror, if you like The Thing, if you like creepy things, Plunge was awesome. I really enjoy this, and I think it was one of the greatest things to have come out of this printing. It was really great. Then I have read some manga. It was not a lot, but it was what I could read at the time. So I am slowly catching up with a series that is currently now at volume 16. I still have a lot of volumes to read at the time of filming this part of the wrap-up. So I am reading The Promised Neverland, and in November I read volume 11, 12, and 13 of The Promised Neverland. This is by Bosuke Denisu and Kayu Shirai, and I am really enjoying it. The Promised Neverland is basically this story, if you've never heard me talk about this, which I find it kind of impossible, but okay. This is basically the story of this group of kids. They live in an orphanage, and one day they discover that they are being bred as food for demons, because the world is divided in a place for humans and a place for demons, and these children are food for the demons. It's part of the courts, so that other humans can live in peace. So they decided they're going to flee the orphanage, and they're going to figure out a way to live as normal human beings and to fight against the demons. So it's sort of a chess game, because they're always being chased by someone, demons and others that work for them. So they're trying to run away and build a life for themselves. And it could be sort of a horror manga series, but I do believe it's a very easy horror manga series to get into. If you've never had read horror manga, this would be the best way to start if you want to. Of course, there's trigger warnings, there's some slight gory scenes. It's a bit violent because it's children and we are seeing them going through terrible stuff, but it's not as violent as it could be in horror. So if you want to start horror and you're not afraid of a little blood, some icky mutilations, then you can read this because it's not that bad. And then finally, I have read a manga that I forgot to haul in November because it was actually a November purchase, and that is Blood on the Tracks Volume 2. And this is by Shuzo Oshimi, that if you don't know is one of my favorite mangakas ever. And this, yes, this is disturbing, this is terrifying, and if you have trigger warnings for mother-son relationship, do not fucking read this, seriously. So this is basically the story of, what's his name? Seishi. Okay, I forgot. This is basically the story of Seishi. He is this kid, he's a very normal kid. However, he has a little bit of an overprotective mother, but it's okay because he loves his mom and he's used to it, and she just wants him to be okay and fine and great. So they have a strange relationship, but that's okay. Until one day when they're hiking with the rest of the family, a very gruesome accident happens and it topples their relationship into something completely different. And it's very uncomfortable, like extremely uncomfortable. I really hate some of the things that happen in this. If you have any problem with psychological manipulation, with deranged family relationships, please do not pick this up because this is going to trigger you. But I really love the art style of Shuzo Oshimi. I love how he uses shadows in people's faces to actually make you understand what is going on. I love how he always does coming of age stories, but with dark themes, so that you understand that going from child to adult is hard. It's a trauma. It's something that not everyone is going to take the same way. And it was an amazing, great manga to read. I cannot wait to read the third one. I hope that when December is over, I would have read it, but we will see in the next part of this. So these were the books that I read in November. Luckily, I will put together the books that I read in December, and you will have a recent reads worthwhile. And so we arrive to the second wrap-up, the December wrap-up, and I have been looking at my progress. I don't look okay. Which might have something to do with the amount of fucks that were given, which were a lot throughout the entirety of the year. 2020 is nearing the end, and so am I. The end of my fucking patience. So, wrapping up the December month, which is not over at the time that I'm filming this, but I probably won't finish any more books or mangas in this month particularly, so we will wrap this up. I read 3 more of the Promised Neverland series, and that is the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th volume of the Promised Neverland. So I'm now currently catched up. The 17th volume came out already, and I have mine on hold already, so it will probably be featured in my book haul, so spoilers for that video. But I am really loving this series. I was already enjoying it in November for what I said, but now I am living for it. One of the characters here was a character that I really enjoyed, but now it's my favorite character, is a very morally gray character, and I love the trope that they are using, which is, I'm trying not to spoil it, but it's basically someone that does stuff that cannot be considered good, but for a good reason. So the actions justify, the means justify the actions, or the ending justify the means, whatever, you know what I mean. And I love that trope because it's someone that isn't inherently bad, but of course isn't completely good-hearted either, and it's just amazing. And the main characters are growing up and evolving, and everything is just more complex. And I am really enjoying The Promised Neverland more than I ever thought I would. So if your first arc is not really your thing, or if, like me, you find that you're facing through the middle of it and you can't really figure out why this is so amazing, the beginning and now the ending escalates so much that you will probably love this series. Just saying. And the other thing that I finished in December was God's Grave by J. Kristoff, and this is the second book in the Nevernight Chronicles. And even though this book wasn't as great as Nevernight, in my opinion, it had really awesome parts, and I really like that the main focus had to do with gladiati and gladiators and all of that. It was hard for me to start reading it, maybe because of the point in my life that I was at that moment as well, but as it developed, I actually cried near the end of this book. And I was so invested, and I do believe that I ended up giving it 5 stars on Goodreads. Not sure, but I think so. However, I am currently reading Dark Dawn, the last of the books in this trilogy. And this, I am only 160 something pages into it, and this is a perfect 5-star read. So if this is a perfect 5-star read, maybe I will have to put 4 stars into this one, but the ending of this one was so great and it had such emotional, incredible moments. I don't know. I really don't know. But to be said, I really like this series. You all know what the series is about, so I'm just going to say it's about our main character, Mia. And she has, her family is like all killed by this emperor, this senator, and so she vows revenge of some people, and so she goes to a school of assassins to learn the trade and then get her revenge. But the plot is way bigger than that, way bigger. A lot of fantastical things happen, and I am really enjoying where this is going. more specifically where this is going right now. So yeah. So those are all the books that I read in the months of November and December. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. I hope that you enjoyed this little recent reads, and I'm very sorry that I didn't do a November wrap-up and didn't do a December wrap-up, to be honest, because this was very fast, but you can see by my face that I'm really tired, so we will just leave it at this. I just wanted to tell you what I've read throughout the year, and probably the first book that I will finish in the next year will be Dark Dawn, if everything goes according to plan, and I am hoping to still read it this week, which is the last week of December. So I hope that you all had an amazing Christmas. I hope that you will have a great stepping into 2021, because let's face it, and I don't want to jinx it, but could this shit be even worse? We hope not. So happy wishes, happy new year to all of you when you're watching this. I hope that you just cross safely to 2021, and I hope to see you in the next year. So that's going to be all for today, and happy readings to you all. Bye!